Hello and welcome back to the EDEM 330 lecture series. Please take out your journal and take notes in your chapter on vocabulary. Don't forget to take your online notes on the odd numbered pages only. Leave your even numbered pages blank. That way you'll have space for your reading notes and class activities. Those will be on the even numbered pages. Okay, now that you are ready, let's get started. Not all words are equal in your vocabulary bank. You understand different words at different levels. In 1965, a researcher named Dale found that vocabulary can be classified in 4 different ways. When you approach a word in print, you might have absolutely no knowledge of its meaning. Or you may look at that word and think, I've heard that word in the past, but I still don't know what it means. You might have some idea of what the word means, and you might be able to piece together the meaning based on what you might already know about the word. Finally, the word might already be in the vocabulary bank in your brain. You can explain what it means and use it in your writing and speaking. Also, your level of knowledge of that vocabulary word will have an impact on how well you understand that word in print. We have 4 different forms of vocabulary. Vocabulary can be divided into oral and print. Oral vocabulary is made up of words that we say and hear. When we are listening, those words that we hear and understand make up our receptive oral vocabulary. They are oral because they are spoken, and receptive because we receive them into our brains and understand them. When we speak words, we are using our oral productive vocabularies. These are oral because they are spoken, and productive because we are producing them. Print vocabulary is made up of words in print that we understand. When we read words in print, we are receiving them into our brains and understand them. So these words are part of our print receptive vocabularies. When we write words we understand, we are utilizing our print productive vocabulary. We are producing those words in writing. We've already studied emergent readers. As you can infer from your knowledge of these readers, these students have a greater oral vocabulary than print. They can understand many words they hear and can use these words in conversation. They haven't developed the print knowledge and phonics skills to read these words in print or write them. As expected, the more we read, the greater our print vocabulary becomes. People have greater receptive vocabularies in both oral and print. You may find that there are words you hear or read that you understand, but you're not confident in producing them when you speak to others or write. Vocabulary is crucial to understanding text. Phonics and vocabulary are not the same. A child can decode a word, but that doesn't mean she knows what that word means. I can sound out Spanish words because Spanish is phonetic, but I don't understand what I'm reading. A student will use different strategies when he comes across a word that is not in his vocabulary bank. Often he will fall back on the words in his oral vocabulary and insert that word to see if it makes sense. How do students add new words to their vocabulary banks? If you have spent time with any child, you will find that most absorb new words like they are little sponges. They are often trying to produce new words even before they grasp their meanings. Indirect exposure refers to the vocabulary experiences that happen in daily life. Words that students hear in conversation or they hear read aloud to them. Direct exposure. Vocabulary experiences that are designed by a teacher or parent specifically teach vocabulary words. We will be discussing later in the video these different word learning strategies that are a part of direct exposure. So how do we, as elementary teachers, select words for direct exposure? You will find that you have limited time to teach new vocabulary words, so you will need to select carefully. Beck and McCowan classified words into 3 tiers based on their use. The first tier are those words that are already in a student's daily vocabulary, such as mother, go, dog, school bus. It is important for students to decode these words or recognize them if they are high-frequency words. But wouldn't it be a waste of time to focus instruction on the meanings of these words? Let's jump to Tier 3 words. These are words that are so specialized that they only appear in specific content areas. Students will receive instruction on these words when you are teaching this content. During reading time, we focus on Tier 2 words, those words that students will encounter often in all content areas and daily reading. Tier 2 words are vocabulary we recommend you select for your instruction during reading time. But what if your students do not have as many Tier 1 words as their peers because English is not their first language? Margarita Calderon recommends you use the following criteria to select vocabulary words for English language learners. Ask yourself the following questions when selecting vocabulary for these elementary students. First, how concrete is the word? Can you use pictures to represent the meaning? Can these verbs be acted out? Cognates are words that look and sound similar in both languages and have the same or similar meanings. For example, police in English means the same thing as policía in Spanish. The same is true for vent and ventana. Finally, ask yourself, how important is understanding this word to comprehending the entire text this student is reading? As an experienced reader, you know that you can omit some words and still understand the overall text. So be careful, choose wisely when you're working with ELL students. How do we teach new vocabulary words? The phrase used to describe effective vocabulary instruction is rich and robust. This means we provide many experiences to encounter and work with the new word. We no longer list words, have students look them up in the dictionary, then assign a multiple choice test. We provide opportunities for the students to listen to, speak, read, and write the word multiple times. When do we introduce new vocabulary words? It is suggested that we approach this 2 different ways according to the reading experience. During read-alouds, we may stop and provide a brief definition and discuss the meaning of the word. On the other hand, if the student is independently reading text and we know the meaning of a new word is crucial to understanding the text, then we introduce the word prior to reading. Keep in mind that students may all be reading a different book during sustained silent reading. I always had my students keep their word list on their desks. During silent reading, if they encounter an unknown word, they would signal me. I would provide a short, student-friendly definition. They would then add this word to the word list with the definition, and then they would continue with their silent reading. When we introduce those Tier 2 words, words that students will encounter often and in many content areas, Beck recommends that we start with student-friendly definitions. This may be a definition that is discussed and decided upon as a whole class. Have you ever opened a dictionary to look up a definition only to find that the definition has confused you even more? Don't get me wrong, it is important for students to develop dictionary skills. For that reason, it is very important to send your students to dictionaries appropriate to their developmental levels. Once students have an understanding of the definition, it is important to have a discussion on how the word is used in context and its use. Is it a verb? Is it a noun? We then use the word in an everyday context, connecting it to real-life experiences. That's also a part of providing a very robust experience when the students encounter these words. Keep in mind that this has been a very basic introduction to vocabulary instruction. Once you have started teaching, you will dig deeper into effective vocabulary instruction. Please look over your notes and jot down any questions you may still have. We will answer these during class. See you then.